Hi, everybody. This is Linda Abraham. I'm a little bit about me. I'm the CEO of Accepted, founder of Accepted. I'm going to be presenting Get Accepted to Wharton Business School today. As everybody files in, just a little bit more about me. In addition to being the founder of Accepted, I'm the co-founder of the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants, AGAC. I also served as its first president. I am the host of the Admissions Straight Talk podcast and the co-author of MBA Admissions for Smarties, and we'll be giving away a few copies of that at the end of the webinar today. So listen up, because we'll have a contest and the winners will get copies of the book. I also we will have a Q&A at the end, so stick around for that if you have questions that I don't answer in the course of the webinar, or if perhaps some of the material I present raises questions in your mind. A couple of housekeeping tips. I may ask you to raise hands at certain points. That means clicking on the hand icon on your dashboard. I also will sometimes ask you questions, and I ask that you answer the questions in the question window. So that window is going to be for your questions at the end and for your answers in the course of the webinar. You can pose questions during the webinar also, and we'll get back to them later on. Finally, we have a worksheet that we prepared for you that will enable you, I think, to more easily follow the content in the webinar, as well as take notes. So you can download that and print that out. It is on your dashboard in the handouts section. Now, I always like to start my webinars by getting to know a little bit about you. First thing I'd like to know is where you're located. If you're in the United States, city and state. If you're outside the United States, city and country. And if you could put that in the question window. Again, the question is, where are you located? And city and state in the United States, city and country outside Boston. Singapore, what time is it in Singapore? Greenville, South Carolina, Madison, Wisconsin, Houston, Dudley, Massachusetts, Columbia, Erie, Pennsylvania, New York, Singapore. What time is it in Singapore? Must be very early there. New York, Philadelphia, Tokyo, 8 a.m. So no, that's pretty reasonable. Okay, Sao Paulo, San Francisco, Houston, Milwaukee, Denver, Thailand, wow, Brooklyn, Nassau, Bahamas, New York City, DC, Baltimore, Maryland, Pompano Beach, Pompano, is that how you pronounce it? Florida, Anacortes, Washington, DC, 8 a.m. That's not bad. Okay, Philadelphia, London. It is the middle of the night in London. Gaithersburg, Maryland, Boston. Anybody from Los Angeles here? Am I the only Angelino? Anybody from California? I don't see. I think I saw up San Francisco. Okay, so we have somebody from California, but I don't see any other Angelinos here. Okay, well, I guess I'll. Los Angeles. Okay, nice to have a neighbor in the webinar. Okay, good. Now that I know where you're at geographically, let me see if I can't learn a little bit about where you're at in the application process, and that will be on your screen. Poll, please choose the option that best describes you. Planning, the options are planning to apply round 1, planning to apply round 2, planning to apply round 3, and planning ahead for next year. Okay, let's see if we can't get the participation level up. We're at 72%. I'd like to get it over 80, 5, 4, 3. Anybody else want to vote? 2, 1. Okay, we're at 81%. And here are the results. Let's see, I'm going to pop this out because it's actually kind of hard for me to read. Hold on a second here. All right. It is not cooperating. No, you see it, but I don't. All right. I'll do this a different way. Now I see it. Okay, planning to apply round 1, 59%. Round 2, 18%. 0% round 3, and 32% planning ahead for next year. That's great. Okay, so and this group is much more round 1, much less round 2 than the morning crowd, and more people planning ahead for next year. So we apparently have, again, a group that's, I think, planning particularly for next year. Now let's look at the second poll I have for you. Again, still trying to learn a little bit about you before we start. How committed are you to applying to Wharton? Okay. Definitely, probably, maybe, or doubt it, but I'd love you to convince me otherwise. Also known as not very. Okay. So let's see if we can, we're almost at 80%. Can we get it over? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, with 82% having voted. Let's share the results here. Okay, so here we have 77% definitely, 15% probably, 6% maybe, and 2%. This is incredibly like this morning's crowd, and pretty much what I expected. So, all right, so that's pretty typical, and also, as I said, pretty much what I expected. All right, let's get into the meat here. Although I turned down Wharton for the man I love, many of you would turn down a lot to go to Wharton, and with good reason. An amazing breadth of educational options and career opportunity awaits the student lucky enough to get into Wharton. In fact, I would say there's an embarrassment of riches at Wharton. There's so much opportunity. And because of the opportunity that Wharton represents, the average GMAT of Wharton's entering class last year was 730, which is actually a tad down from the 732 of 2015's entering class. Now, some may say that Wharton is just about Wall Street, and I say that person knows nothing about Wharton. During a recent AGAC conference, which was held at Wharton, we were treated to a dizzying array of presentations about various options and programs at Wharton. So yes, Wharton is a finance powerhouse, but is not only a finance powerhouse. It has a flexible curriculum that prepares its graduates for a broad spectrum of careers. It is a premier program with an impressive alumni network and placement record. And that's one of the reasons that if you look at your screen right now, you'll see that, wait a minute, I think I'm, here you go. Now if you look at your screen, give it a second, you'll see that Wharton is in the top 7, I think, for all but one of the programs that U.S. News, categories that U.S. News rates programs for. And unlike some of its competitors who have acceptance rates of under 15%, 12%, 6%, Wharton has a 19.6% acceptance rate per U.S. News. And that slightly increased acceptance rate, but by no means high, represents opportunity for qualified applicants. The rest of this webinar is devoted to discussing how you can take advantage of that opportunity. So I'm going to go through the 4 key parts of my strategy framework and apply it to Wharton. You can use the framework on any other top MBA program, but the tactics and the focus in this webinar will be strictly Wharton and its 2017-18 application. I'm also going to several times in the course of the webinar issue warnings or caveats because I've seen what applicants sometimes do in error. And I'm going to start with this one. You're not going to get into Wharton by waving a magic wand. A dab of makeup won't do it. Spin is not what we're talking about either. What you need to do is submit a substantive application. And substance to me means competitive qualifications and an effective presentation of those qualifications. In other words, you need to demonstrate fit. Your overriding aim is to show that you belong at Wharton, much like that puzzle piece belongs in the puzzle on your screen. All right, now I'd like you to, in the question window, tell me how you intend to show you belong at Wharton. Okay, I see that getting a little bit of a wait here, but how do you intend, in the question window, how do you intend to show that you belong at Wharton? Background and experience, grit. I haven't figured that out yet. Well, hopefully you will by the end of the webinar. Commitment to the school's mission. Good, Claire, that's part of it. Good extracurriculars, good SATs, I think you mean GMATs. Good grades, good essay, those are part of it. Drive, part of it. Experience and strong GMAT, again, definitely part of it. Analytical aptitude is part of it. by showing that the courses and my future career align, definitely part of it. Share same values. Okay, what I can contribute to the program, okay. All of the above. Most of all of the above. That's good, Justin. All right, most of you are getting, and I'm going to move on, part of it. And one of the things I really hope you walk away from today is the idea that you need all 4 parts of this framework. Okay, it's not just the grades, it's not just the experience, it's not even just the mission. It's on the career fit. Yes, that's part of it. All of them together. So let's dive into the nitty-gritty. Number 1, the first part of the framework, demonstrate you can handle the academics. In Frank DeVecchis' words at the last AGAC conference this past summer, academic preparedness. The easiest way to show that academic preparedness is through your undergraduate transcript and your test score, GMAT or GRE. And ideally, this is the ideal, it's not cast in concrete, you want to be at or above average for accepted students for both grades and test scores. If not, how can you convince Wharton to accept you with below average grades to start with? Well, first of all, realize that averages are what they are because approximately half the people in the class are admitted with below average numbers. However, the farther away you are below the average, whether it's for the GPA or the test score, and if both your grades and test scores are below average, the harder it is that you can demonstrate you can do the work, and the less likely that you'll be able to make that kind of persuasive argument. So if your grades are a little bit below average, but you still think that you are otherwise competitive, what I would suggest you do is take business-related classes and earn A's in them. You can also do that, by the way, if you lack a quantitative background and you're trying to say, I can really handle the math. Wharton is a particularly data-focused and quantitative program. Math skills really count. Another option is to get a certificate like a CFA if it's relevant to your career goals. If your quant skills are weak, if you're the proverbial poet but your grades are good, consider something like MBAmath.com, HBX Core, or quant courses at your local college. And that could be statistics for business, calculus if you have and remember the prerequisites, economics 1, accounting 1. And Wharton on its website says calculus and statistics are good foundation courses for an MBA. So if you either haven't taken those courses recently, haven't used those skills, or never took those courses, I would strongly recommend that you take them and do well with them. Another way to offset a low GPA is with a high GMAT. Now, it's not 100% offset because they do show slightly different things. But for top 10 programs, including Wharton, ideally, this is not a line in the sand, you want to be at the 80th percentile in both quant and verbal, whether your grades are good or below average. Now, again, that wasn't a line in the sand. There are extenuating circumstances, there are mitigating circumstances, but that is kind of an ideal guideline. If you're not sure whether to retake or not, the GMAT or the GRE, especially the GMAT, please see that GMAT score. These are 2 resources that we have for you. One is a short video and one is a full-blown webinar on whether to retake the GMAT or not. But somehow, some way, you must show that you can do the work effectively and not struggle with either basic math or communications. They want to admit people who will thrive. Second part of the framework, have a clear, realistic reason for wanting a Wharton MBA. That means you need to know how you intend to use it. And professional direction is the second thing that Frank DeVecchis, who, by the way, is the admissions director at Wharton for the full-time MBA program, said Wharton is looking for when they evaluate an application. And they ask very clearly, what do you hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA? That is a question about professional direction. Now, I think that question is asking for a little bit more than the classic MBA, post-MBA career goal, which usually is function plus industry. I want to do X in industry Y. And it's not what you want to study in business school, by the way, that's something else. We'll go into Wharton's essay question when we get to the essay part of the webinar, but I think the fact that Wharton devotes one of its 2 required essays to what you want to hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA program shows the importance that they put on this professional direction. At the same time, no 20-year plans, please, said Frank Vivekis. They're interested in the realism and feasibility of your goals. That doesn't mean that you can't be ambitious, but it does mean that there should be some logical way that you can achieve them. Key point here is that your application as a whole must allow the admissions committee to see how your previous academic experience and your previous work experience, when combined with the Wharton MBA, will help you achieve what you want to achieve. Schools want to know that they can help you succeed, and they need to know what success looks like in your mind. Indeed, if you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else, as Yogi Berra used to say. In Wharton's words, our hope is to give applicants ample space to more fully explain their aspirations, goals, and how Wharton fits into those. And that's directly, that last line is directly from the Wharton website. So those are the first 2 parts of the framework, right? The academics, showing that you can do the work. 2, having a goal that requires a Wharton MBA. And 3, here's the 3rd part, show that you share Wharton's values. And it's what Vivekis called, again, when he met with the consultants, the community element. Now, Wharton's key values are innovation, analytics, and entrepreneurship. All that innovation, combined with Wharton's incredible commitment to assisting its students in making the most of their Wharton experience and opportunity, has led to it having one of the most flexible and rich curricula around. That commitment for you as an applicant and hopefully a student at Wharton means relevance to your goals, your dreams, the holes in your education. So the question becomes, especially if you're going to answer that essay question that we're going to get to in a few minutes, how are you going to take advantage of the flexibility that's inherent in Wharton's program? You have ability to waive out of classes if you've already taken them. What are you going to replace them with? This is a school that has 200 electives, 18 majors, and 10% of students design their own major. 5.5 out of 9 credits in its core curriculum are flexible. Wharton is, so that's one aspect of the program. And as an applicant who's going to be responding to questions about how are you going to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity, you have to think about what aspects of its program are most important and relevant to you and the achievement of your goals. Another fact about Wharton is that Wharton is committed to analytical rigor and use of data. And I can tell you that whenever I've spoken to Wharton grads, it's always like, and I'm not talking about contentious conversations, but it's always backed up evidence, data, evidence, data. Now, obviously, sometimes topics are not measurable, but then there has to be some other kind of evidence. So the question for you as an applicant is, when have you used analytics, analysis, or data and the resulting insight to solve a problem, improve a process? Because that's what you're going to want to highlight in your resume and maybe ask your recommender to mention it in their letter of recommendation. A few of the distinctive aspects of Wharton that Wharton touts on his website are its global network, and it's truly amazing the global opportunities that Wharton provides. It has 94,000 alumni in 153 countries spread across 6 continents. The international educational opportunities at Wharton can be short and intensive or extensive and immersive. You have, it's kind of crown program, the Wharton Lauder Institute, which allows participants to earn a master's in a particular region, an MA as well as the MBA. International exchange programs at 17 partner schools in 15 countries. Co-curricular opportunities, also conferences, international volunteer programs, and career tracks. What does it mean for you as an applicant? Do you have international work experience that you want to highlight? Extensive personal travel abroad, a multicultural background or experience, or perhaps goal or ambition? If you have the goal and ambition, you should also have some experience, by the way. That would be something that you might want to highlight. Wharton is also very much a student-led culture, what they used to call a culture of engagement. It's the opposite of a sit-back, spoon-fed student body. And between learning teams and clusters, it requires excellent teamwork and interpersonal skills, as well as participation. If you want to get a sense of what this means, I would suggest that you listen to the podcast interview I recently had with Professor Richard Schell and Siamak Sarvari, who graduated Wharton this past year. He's Wharton 2017. He also is the founder, with some other students, of the Commitment Project at Wharton. And you really get a flavor for both how supportive the Wharton administration is and the initiative that they allow students to take at Wharton. So anyway, that's exhibit.com/210, and you can listen to it after the webinar. Again, at the AGAC conference that was hosted in Philadelphia, I was genuinely struck by the administration's attempts to respond to student input, to customize the student experience, to help the students make the most of the myriad opportunities at Wharton. And this comes through very much, I think, in that podcast, exhibit.com/210. What does it mean for you as an applicant? Think about the times when you were engaged with your community, however you define your community. When did you initiate and innovate, contribute? And again, what they're looking for in terms of your activity descriptions and the application is they're not looking to see a long laundry list of awards. What they're looking for is what you can add to the Wharton community. So the fact that you once a year get Employee of the Month award in your 12-person department just isn't that impressive. But if you've got an award for something far more meaningful, well, that is something that Wharton would be very interested in knowing about. So it's more about depth and quality of experience than quantity. And investment bankers, yes, don't worry, they know you don't have a lot of time. Wharton also has an innovative, very well-developed leadership training program. It's a comprehensive program that starts with preterm. It's the first required course in their core, and it continues throughout the 2 years at Wharton. They want to admit people, though, who are leaders, who can take advantage of this kind of program. So again, be prepared to show, not necessarily everywhere, but at least in some places where you have led and had an impact. Wharton is one of the few programs, and I think it was the first, to have a Dean of Innovation. And again, if you can show that you've led, innovated, initiated, they're going to be really impressed with that. Now, I want to issue one of my warnings. There's a big difference between mouthing platitudes, spitting back websites, and actually showing that you share the school's values. The former, the spitting back and the mouthing platitudes, that's just gift wrap. And let's remember what we do with gift wrap. We throw it out. We throw it out. We toss it in the garbage. And it's there to hide what's really valuable on the inside. You want to highlight what's really valuable on the inside. So don't put gift wrap on your applications. It's a waste. But provide substantive examples in your essays, the bullet points in your resumes. Advise your letter of recommendation writers also. Your responses to interview questions should in total show that you both have what Wharton is looking for and can benefit from what Wharton offers, and that you share with Wharton a belief in what's important. To me, Wharton is about breadth of experience and has been for a long time. Yes, blue chip experience is valued, but blue chip experience plus small business and entrepreneurship, that's gold. Multiple languages, working in different parts of the world, making time for both professional and personal commitments, all that breadth, and what I'm really talking about here is breadth, enhances your attractiveness at Wharton. And of course, rigorous database analysis. So again, it's not just the essays, there's not a lot of short answers in Wharton application, but it's everything in totality, and that includes the letters of recommendation, and your responses to interview questions must also demonstrate these qualities. So I'd like you to take a minute right now, and this is for yourself, you don't have to do it in the question window. Either take the worksheet that you printed out, the back of an envelope, or a computer file on your computer, and write down for yourself some ways in which you can show fit with some of the values that we've been discussing here, okay? Whether it's the global network, the initiative and innovation, teamwork, leadership, and community engagement, I guess is what I've talked about instead of teamwork, but that's pretty much what we're talking about here. Okay, just take a minute or two. And while you do that, take a minute or two, jot just down some ideas. I want you to really think that you've furthered your application at least a little bit with these notes. While you're doing that, I'm going to give you another warning, a warning that I hope really doesn't apply to anybody here this evening. And that is that a focus on rankings or a superficial identification of Wharton's brand, Wall Street, can obscure this fit aspect of admissions as well as contribute to you focusing on the wrong thing. And if you focus on the wrong thing, on brand and top whatever, you know what's going to happen? You'll blend in. And you want to stand out in a really positive way. You want to show that you have the distinctive experience and perspective to contribute to Wharton's class and community. Wharton has lots of applicants and it can be choosy. At its current application volume and acceptance rate, it rejects slightly more than 4 out of every 5 applicants. And that leads to my last strategic point, the last part of our framework. Again, part 1, academic preparedness. Part 2, a goal that requires a Wharton MBA. Part 3, showing that you share Wharton's values. And part 4, demonstrate that you'll be able to contribute to your learning team cohort and the greater Wharton community, and ultimately make the school proud. Again, getting back to the presentation that Frank DeVekis gave to the AGAC conference, when they evaluate your application, they're asking themselves, what can this person add to the Wharton community? So you want to reveal a habit of having added to whatever community you were involved in the past. And you want to do that throughout your essay, your resume, your activity, history, interview, letters of recommendation. You need to show impact. Where have you made a difference? And in this case, in the question window, please provide me some examples of times that you made a difference. Okay. Again, the question is, can you provide some examples of times when you contributed and made a difference? Leading the women's employee resource group at my company. Okay, Claire, that's good, but I'd like to know the difference that was made. What was the result of your leadership? I helped organize a high school program at the state capitol to teach civic engagement to low-income and minority students. Okay, that's good. That's good. How did it change them? That's good. I'd like to know how many students were involved. And I'm assuming this is when you were out of high school already. So you were either in college or beyond, and you organized this. Good. Okay, Audrey writes that I work with Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, where I help children in high school get scholarships for college. Great. How many kids do you work with? How many kids have you affected? And how much scholarship money have they gotten? Where have they gone to school as a result? What are they doing that they could not otherwise do because of their involvement in your work? Okay, this is from Aditya. Developed and executed a turnaround strategy to revive nonprofit promoting Indian cultural activities in the city, improved community outreach by 25%. All right, now we're talking. We're getting some concrete results. Good. You may also want to talk about. I assume you didn't do this exclusively. You had a team that were working with you. That'd be kind of interesting to know. Clinic manager of a 34-person dental clinic implemented new scheduling and radiology plans that raise clinic production by 15%. Good, good. Let's see what else we have here. Leading electronic attack phase for naval aviation training squadron, redesigning syllabus and course content for future naval pilots and electronic warfare officers. Good, again, I'd like to know a little bit. That's what you did. I'd like to know the results. What was the impact of it? I don't know if you can, I suspect you can't talk about it here. I'm not sure if you can talk about it in your application either, but that would be kind of cool. Save multiple lives by supporting a novel initiative on skin donation. Great. That'd be excellent. I probably would wonder how many lives. I'd like a little bit more information, but I don't, you don't have room for it here. All right, this is all great. Thank you. These are great examples. So those are some very wonderful specific examples where you've made a difference. Let's focus for a moment, and I'm not saying you have to use work experience, professional work experience, or limit yourself to community service. But let's talk a minute though about work experience, because that is of course an important component of your application. And the question becomes, do you have the work experience quantitatively and qualitatively that will allow you to contribute in class and on team projects? So at Wharton, the average amount of work experience is 5 years, but the range is 0 to 13 years. So that's kind of the easy part to look at, right? That's quantitative, it's easy, you can point to it, boom, 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 do your spreadsheet, you're done. What about qualitatively? That's a lot harder. And that, first of all, the qualitative part of it means that you have to have something that is impressive, like what many of you put on your responses to my question. You want evidence that you have leadership, that you've made a contribution, that you've demonstrated initiative and innovation, because those are the things that Wharton values. And you also want to show above average progression on the job. So I was reviewing today a resume for one of our staff, asked me to look it over, and on the resume, the applicant had in each case put that he was promoted 1 or 2 years ahead of normal. Very important thing to put down, because that's something that the schools are looking for. So let's say for the moment that you have the substantive, impressive, both community service and work experience to discuss. And you have it there, you have the substance. Then you have to talk about how to present it. And I think the best way that I can show you how to present it is to do a little experiment. Okay, so I'm going to launch a poll now. It should be appearing on your screens momentarily. And you can choose more than one answer with this poll. Okay, how many of you, and you can work or have worked since college in finance or consulting? How many of you in college or since have traveled outside your home country? And how many of you have volunteered in college or since? Okay. We're at 70%. Let's see if we can't get it over 80%. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You guys are great. With 88% having voted. 56% of you work in finance or consulting. 92% have traveled outside your home country. And 92% have volunteered. Wait, let me share this with you. No, I did share it with you. Have volunteered in college or since. Just the numbers are a little higher, especially on the first two, than this morning's group, but still pretty comparable. Now here's the next set of questions. Again, you can choose multiple options if you want, but you don't have to. How many of you work for a money management firm providing IT support? How many of you consulted for pharma firms seeking to enter South American markets? And the third option is how many of you have volunteered at a sleepaway camp for special needs kids, right? Now I think here we're going to have probably lower numbers. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And even here we had about 50% participation, which I think is kind of high. And there were 13% of you have worked in IT support for a money management firm. 3% have worked to help pharma firms seeking to enter South American markets. And 13% volunteered at a sleepaway camp for special needs kids. What's the difference between the two sets of questions? In the question window, please. Second set is very specific, specificity. One is general, the other is specific. General versus specific, exactly. Second set are more specific, exactly. Now what happens when you write in specifics? More specific, more unique, the specific distinguishes you, sets you apart, you stand out, you become more unique, exactly. Makes you more memorable, exactly. Drop in appliance, I don't quite get what that's about, but anyways. Tell us that Daryl lets you stand out, exactly. You folks have it, adds diversity. It shows how you add diversity, because suddenly you're different. If you focus on specifics, you will allow yourself to very naturally stand out and reveal yourself to be the unique individual that you truly are. You're all individuals. But if you write in general terms, then you kind of blend in to each other. And that's not what you want to do. Right? Look at the difference. Again, you saw those numbers. I'm gonna post the earlier one again. Those numbers are really different. So if you write in generalities, you're going to blend into the woodwork, even if you really have some fantastic things that you've done. But the fantastic nature only comes out when you write in specifics. Focus on specifics to allow yourself to naturally stand out. So, are you an engineer or a transportation engineer? Are you a consultant or a healthcare consultant? Did you volunteer or did you found a new organization to address a specific need in your community, however you define your community? And I can't overemphasize this point enough. Why is distinctive contribution important? Because admissions and elite programs is really a two-step process. The first process is evaluation, determining who is qualified, essentially determining who fits into the program. And top programs always turn away students whom they know can do the work. Wharton on its site says, and I'm quoting now, in any given year, approximately 3/4 of candidates are admissible based on academic factors alone, end quote. Wharton wants people who will not only do okay, but who will thrive and who will contribute. And it's that last part, that contribution part, that leads to the second stage in the admissions process. And this was, I think, best written up or stated by Derek Bolton, former admissions dean at Stanford, in a GMAC article several years ago where he wrote, crafting a class determining which candidates to admit among those evaluated as highly qualified. So what's the implication of this two-step process and of even of Wharton's comment about 3/4 of candidates are admissible? It means that they have no reason to admit someone without something distinctive to contribute, no benefit to accepting someone lacking a distinctive perspective and experience, or a history of leadership and growth in multiple arenas. Remember the importance of breadth to Wharton. So keep that in mind. Now let's review the 4 strategic steps you need to think about before and while putting your application together. 1, you want to present evidence you can do the work, the in-class work in Excel. 2, that you have a clear, realistic idea why you want an MBA from Wharton and how you intend to use it. 3, you want to show that you share Wharton's values and meet its criteria. And 4, you want to demonstrate that you'll be able to contribute to your team, your cohort, Wharton's community, and ultimately make the school proud. Let's look at the specific elements of the Wharton application. I've already touched on grades and transcripts. Let's look at some of the other elements. First, the job and activity history. Wharton wants a 1-page resume in Word. For Wharton, in its job history, it's pretty much the facts and nothing but the facts. There's little room to elaborate on motivations, lessons learned, or challenges overcome, anything like that. So you have to make the most of your 1-page resume to show impact and contribution. The activity history similarly should show that you belong at an institution that is proud of its participatory culture. So throughout the job history, the activity history, and your resume, you want to focus on achievements and not mere descriptions of responsibilities. And that was kind of the point I was trying to make a little bit earlier when I was asking you for some ways that you've contributed, and I kept saying, what was the result? What was the impact of that? Quantify impact whenever possible. Wharton also asks, how many employees do you supervise? Please explain this number briefly. Now, they give you a whopping 400 characters for that. That's about 3 tweets or 80 words. And a succinct, straightforward answer is required. So you can try to show impact in your response and reveal challenges faced. For example, was it a cross-functional team that you were the head of, or an international team, or a team with ex-remote members, or perhaps you were the youngest member of the team that you were leading? Those are all details that would add impact to the response. Let's move on to the essays. Wharton has 2 required essays and 1 optional essay. Your essay should complement the other elements of the application, answer the question posed, and reveal something distinctive and interesting about you. They are great places to show fit and to reveal some of the qualities that Wharton values. Again, it's a wonderful place to demonstrate some of the professional and community elements that Devekis and his team is looking for. So let's go to the first question. What do you hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA? This is what I would call a broader goals question. It's not just about that first position after you earn your MBA, but about greater aims. So to respond to it well, I think the thing I would recommend that you do is get ready, get set, think. What are you trying to achieve? How do you hope to achieve it? How does the Wharton program, career placement, and community, both your classmates and alumni, fit into the realization of your dreams? And you need a focused response because you just don't have a lot of room. 500 words is not a lot. So think about some of the differentiators that we discussed. Don't spit back a list of Wharton's programs or even the values that I discussed, but do thoughtfully tie the most important elements of Wharton's program to the achievement of your goals. Again, quoting or paraphrasing Devekis at AGAC this past summer, they want to get a feel for why Wharton is the right place for you. You don't have to regurgitate the website and the clubs you want to join, but you should be able to connect the school to your direction. I might add thoughtfully. They want to understand how you intend to engage with their community. That would be the second question. So think about it. How can Wharton help you? What about its career strength, its curriculum, and by that I mean the classes, the professors, the programs, support your goals? What about the extracurricular activities, the clubs, the events, the treks? There's a lot there that you can choose from, so you're going to have to throw out anything that is extraneous that doesn't relate to those points. And if the essay is still too long, then cut it back again and go for what is most important and most at the core of your reason for going to Wharton. Essay 2. Teamwork is at the core of the Wharton MBA experience, with each student contributing unique elements to our collaborative culture. How will you contribute to the Wharton community? Now, if the first question is about what you want to get out of Wharton, this is about what you're going to give to Wharton. And it directly relates to the community element that the Wharton Admissions Committee seeks. So I would, if I were you, choose 1 or 2 Wharton clubs or events that you would like to get involved in, or perhaps initiate something new, or maybe revitalize something that is dormant and only exists on the Wharton website. I think a good approach would be to try and, first of all, talk to some current students so that you kind of do your homework and there's an air of realism to whatever you say. Would you start a new initiative, grow something that has stagnated, or you have a lot of different options, or just continue something that's thriving and that's really appealing to you? And then, how has something that you've done in the past shown that you have the ability to do so, and also highlights your teamwork skills and your ability to contribute to the Wharton community? A possible structure for this essay: start with the way you intend to contribute, and perhaps draw a picture in words of what success would look like. Talk about a time when you worked on a team that had a similar goal and accomplished it. And while acknowledging that you were part of a team, highlight your own role and contribution. Let's move on to the optional essay. First-time applicants can use this essay if you feel there are extenuating circumstances. All reapplicants, those who applied for fall 2016 or 17, are also required to complete the optional essay. Please use this space to explain how you have reflected on the previous decisions on your application and to discuss any updates on your candidacy. 250 words. You may also use this section to address any extenuating circumstances. Wharton emphasizes that it is truly optional, but not optional for a reapplicant. And you can use this to provide context for a bad semester or other negative or questionable elements in your application, like the bad semester or non-traditional choice of recommenders. You may also use the optional to discuss challenges overcome that perhaps didn't zap your GPA, but maybe add a certain luster to it. What it shouldn't be, under any circumstances, is a waste of their time. In order to respond to all these questions, do your homework about Wharton. Each one requires an answer that is specific to Wharton and its program. Don't try and, you can perhaps take from another school's essays, but you can't just recycle it. And you certainly can't copy and paste it. So read the brochures, comb the website, and yes, speak to current students and recent alumni if you want to really ace these essays. Recommender selection, well, 2 is the key number. You need to find 2 people who have supervised you closely and know you well, and Wharton prefers that they both be from supervisors, current or former. Wharton has changed pretty dramatically what it's requesting of recommenders, but it is clear that it wants an example in response to each of its 2 open-ended questions, and then it asks recommenders to choose 3 attributes from a list of 10 that they feel best describe you. There's no right or wrong in that list of 10. They really are just trying to get insight. And at the AGAC conference this past summer, they emphasized that recommendation is really a misnomer in their case. It's more of a reference, if you will. They were really struggling. We were there to come up with what this thing really is supposed to be. But I think the reference, even that has the element of valuation to it, so I don't think it's applicable. They're looking for perspective and insight into you as a human being. Let's move on to the interview. Well, Wharton, going along with its innovative path, has both a short individual interview, which is fairly traditional, and the famed team-based discussion, which came out of the Dean of Innovation's office. The individual interview is personal conversation. It's not intimidating. It typically follows the TBD, the team-based discussion, and you might be asked for feedback on your team-based discussion. You should go into it with some questions that you've prepared to ask of a current student. The team-based discussion is a group interview, a mini team project to come up with a proposal for a specific idea. And the key to the team-based discussion, and we have some tips. We'll be sending out these URLs, by the way. The key to team-based discussion is the success of the group, not your airtime. We have mock TBDs that we offer, and I've sat in on many of them. And the most effective participants encouraged others, contributed when they had something constructive to say, listened well, acknowledged others' points of views and contribution, and respectfully disputed when necessary, and of course with facts and evidence. They were the opposite of air hogs and show-offs. So again, the team-based discussion is all about the team's success. It's not about the individual strutting his or her stuff, or again, being an air hog. Let's go back to your goal in submitting an application to Wharton, and that is show that you belong at Wharton. Now, the first one to answer the next question is going to get a copy of the book that I co-authored, MBA Mission for Smarties, the No-Nonsense Guide to Acceptance at Top Business Schools. The question is, you should put your hands over your keyboard. What is the first goal you must achieve to show that you belong at Wharton? What's the first part of my framework, 4-part framework? Academic excellent. Okay, Misna, Tega, and Van. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll also give it to Hollis because so you guys are great. Okay, you have it, Rachel? Okay, and we'll probably be in touch tomorrow. If you're in the United States, you can choose between paperback or Kindle. If you're outside the United States, it'll be Kindle. All right. 4. Misna, Tega, Van, and Hollis. Okay? All right, I'll tell you what. We'll have another question. And the next 3 who get it, will get it. What's the second part of the framework? Okay. Ooh, you guys are good. Adam, have a clear, realistic, yeah, clear, right? Vikram, Bridget, and I'll make it 4 again, David. Okay? You got it? Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Let's go through all 4 of them and just review them quickly. Evidence that you can do the work. Realistic goal requiring an MBA from Wharton. Show that you meet the Wharton's criteria and share its values, and then demonstrate they'd be able to contribute distinctively to class discussions and teamwork, the school's community, and ultimately make the school proud. So that's the 4 parts of the framework. Final caveat and warning for you folks before we leave, and we will have a Q&A still. The admissions committee readers are sharp, intelligent professionals. Don't try to trick, fake, or fool. The best presentation of you is an authentic reflection of your achievements and dreams, keeping in mind the 4 things that will make Wharton want you. Now realize that a successful Wharton MBA application requires all 4 elements of this 4-part framework. That's the one thing I really, really want you folks to walk away with this evening. The framework gives you because if you just show you have the academics, you're not really showing fit. If you only have the career goal, you're not really doing it. It really is all 4 parts. And the framework that I provided you, all 4 parts, well, that is the what of a successful application. And I think in many cases I've given you the why. But what you need now is the how applied to your individual circumstances. And that's something no book, webinar, or download can provide because they are of necessity general and for the many. But an experienced MBA admissions consultant can help you implementing this framework and guide you so that you present all 4 elements. We here at Accepted would love to guide you in showing that you both belong at Wharton or whatever MBA program you're aiming for, and that you are a standout in the applicant pool. We want to guide you in creating an application that as a whole spotlights your strengths and mitigates your weaknesses. Here's what you get at Accepted. You get a customized approach that fits your needs. You can purchase the most common services on a flat rate or an hourly fee basis. We are definitely not one size fits all. You get lots of options so that if you only need a little help with one element of the application, that's what you can purchase. If you want comprehensive assistance, that's what you can get. You get one dedicated advisor who becomes expert in your story and is already expert in MBA admissions. We've been helping clients get accepted to Wharton and other top MBA programs for over 20 years. We have collectively decades of experience in MBA admissions, and our staff consists of highly experienced consultants, former admissions committee members and directors, and published authors with 5, 10, and 15 years of experience. Candor and objectivity combined with decades of experience in MBA admissions. Remember, professional writers have editors for a reason. If you're not a professional writer, don't you think you need one also? Now, some may say Accepted is expensive, and we're certainly not cheap because of the quality of our staff. However, there are also expensive risks associated with not using Accepted. Reapplication can easily cost a couple thousand or more dollars. One additional year of pre-MBA earnings can cost in the 5 figures in dollars. One additional year of a job you dislike, if that's your situation. I hope it isn't, but it could be. And then there's the potential that you could have gotten into a better program with lifelong higher earnings and network, and that could cost you in the 5 or 6 figures. Every year we work with applicants who talked to us the year earlier and decided after taking the do-it-yourself route and getting rejected that now they want to work with us. They would have been better off working with us initially, and so would you. But enough from me. What do accepted clients say? Well, you have on your screen a little bit of feedback, just a sample. Over the last week, I found out that I got into Stanford and Wharton offered me a grant. I'm very happy. I'm going out to celebrate. One last thought I had regarding the Wharton grant. Your help went beyond helping me to obtain admission to actually increasing my chances, I believe, of getting offered a merit-based fellowship. Talk about unexpected ROI. Or another one. I want to share the good news that I got accepted to Wharton and I was offered a significant scholarship. I didn't even want to apply to Wharton out of fear of rejection, but thanks to you, I submitted my application, interviewed, and got a scholarship. I'll be forever grateful for your assistance throughout this process. Now, the interesting thing with this applicant is though she thought that she had to apply outside the top 20 because her undergrad school lacked pedigree. And as a result of our advice, she applied top 10 and got into MIT and Wharton with a scholarship. Or how about this feedback, the last feedback from somebody from a very much overrepresented group in the applicant pool who had decent stats. He wrote, I'm really happy. I would like to thank Jennifer once again for her wonderful guidance, without which this, acceptance to Wharton and Booth, would not have been possible. Different people, different challenges, and different fears. Same result at Wharton. I can't say that all our clients are accepted to Wharton, but we'd sure like to use the same expert, insightful, individual guidance that we use with these clients to help you get accepted to Wharton. Here's what I'd like you to do after the Q&A. It's now August, and there is still time before Wharton's round 1 deadline to work with us. You can contact us ASAP, and we'd be delighted to help you from scratch, start, with strategy and brainstorming, or review and edit the essays that you've written or will shortly write. Our goal is to guide you so that you present all 4 parts of this critical framework and show that you both belong at Wharton and are a standout in the applicant pool. So take the steps on your screen now, right? Visit after the webinar, accept.com/MBA/services, and yes, we will be sending it out. Choose a service that's right for you, get the guidance you need, and then apply confidently and effectively. Now, before you do leave to choose a service that's right for you, I'm happy to take your questions. And let's see what we have here. We have several questions, I see. Audrey asks, is it better to apply round 1, or will they discount you for applying round 2? They will not discount you for applying round 2. They won't do that. I do feel that if one is ready, round 1, there is an advantage to applying round 1 because the class is empty. And I think, I know that there are times when if a particular group is well represented or overrepresented round 1, they may not have room for you later on in the application cycle. So I think there is an advantage in applying round 1, but it's certainly not because the school will think less of you for applying round 2 or anything of the kind. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay. Justin asks, as a financial powerhouse, how much credit does Wharton give to the CFA charter, especially when it is relevant to pre-MBA experience and post-MBA career goals? It is very well respected, Justin. It has a lot of credibility and it's very well respected. I don't know, I'm not sure what the context for the question is. Are you concerned about grades or GMAT score or something like that? I mean, that I'm going to guess is kind of what's going on, but I guess. All right, let's lowish quant score. Yes, in that case, it can be very effective. I'm not obviously. Yeah, it's definitely has a lot of credibility. By the way, this is not Wharton, but Rotman will waive the GMAT for people who are CFA charter holders. So that's it. Yeah, you got the answer you wanted. All right, let's see what else we have here. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Okay, Peter asks, how should I explain my D in a higher level major class in my last semester of my regional university. I have no good excuse besides slacked off too much. I think you just have to take responsibility for poor choices, and mea culpa. We do have at accept.com/137 a podcast devoted to dealing with a low GPA. It's called 5 A's for your low GPA. I don't think you can explain it away. I think you just have to, again, take responsibility for poor choices. You may want to consider taking some classes now, so that you can say, now I know, now I'm mature, and I'm not gonna slack off again. Also point to your work experience. Hopefully you have a high GMAT or GRE and good progression on the job. Good question though. Let's see. You're welcome, Peter. Okay, Jessica asks, how do I show that I recently got promoted 2 rungs above my previous role? I think you just have to say it in your resume or your job history, and just say that you skipped a level. Just say it in your resume. It can be one bullet point or a sentence in a bullet point. You don't have to go into any great detail. Just say it, but it's worthwhile saying. Okay, let's see. All right. Hillary is asking, in the essays, how much should I devote to my personal motivations, values versus specifics about Wharton? How much personal detail should I provide in the first Wharton question, especially since the second essay is solely more devoted to personal interests, with details about my family situation and how that influenced my interaction with people fit into the essay? Yeah, there's more to this question. It's very hard to give general advice about how much should general categories be included in essays. That's the kind of question that we would definitely deal with in a consulting situation where we know the details and the specifics. There are times when personal experiences are so important to your development and your choices that you cannot not include them. And there are other times when you'd be much wiser focusing on professional, and I really can't answer that in a vacuum. So it's a good question, but it really highlights the advantages of individual advising. And if you don't want a large package, you can start with 1 hour and just ask the questions that are most important to you, and that's $305. So it's a relatively small expense in the context of the MBA admissions process, not to mention the MBA education expense. Good. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, Natala's asking, is a 710 GMAT converted from the GRE competitive at all, or is it worth retaking with a 3.92 GPA? I don't think you have to, well, I think the question is how high do you think your GMAT can go, and how easily, or GRE can go, and how easily do you think it will be for you to raise it? How likely are you to raise it? Obviously, a higher GMAT or GRE can only help you. Do you have to retake it to be given serious consideration? Assuming, given your GPA and assuming that you have everything else that we've discussed today, I would say no, you don't have to retake it. But if you were fairly confident that you could retake and raise it 20 points or more, and that it was not going to take away from other parts of your application process, maybe it makes sense to do it. Okay? So thank you again. All right. We are over, and you've been a wonderful, wonderful audience. I want to thank you for your questions, for your attention, your time coming, and now a final thought and story. The thought: there is a paradox inherent to acceptance at top business schools. I've kind of alluded to it, but I'm going to nail it right now. You have to demonstrate that you fit in and stand out. And by fitting in, I mean that you belong at your target school. In this case, Wharton, in terms of your goals, your academics, your work experience, and your values. By standing out, you need to stand out in a highly qualified, intensely competitive applicant pool. You need to show that you're going to contribute distinctively, as we've discussed, and add a special something to the school's community and make the admissions committee proud that they voted to admit you. That's the thought, that there is this paradox. And the 4-part framework, by the way, really covers that paradox. The first 3 parts are about fitting in. The last part is about standing out. One more story and one more challenge. This client had good stats and work experience, but he came from a highly overrepresented cohort in the applicant pool. He worked with Philippe Barr, and here is his feedback, which I've actually condensed quite a bit. I wanted to offer some thoughts on working with Philippe through the whole process. In summary, Philippe helped me with 3 out of 4 of my essays and a quick resume scan. I applied to Stanford, Harvard, Wharton, and MIT Sloan, and was accepted to 3 waitlisted at Stanford. I'd highly recommend Philippe across the board. He was very kind and personable, but as I had hoped, he provided very direct and honest feedback. And by the way, I read several of this fellow's essays. He tended to be rather vague and write in generalities. It was exactly what I needed. It helped me trust his comments and really reassess my approach when I needed to. When I disagreed with his comments, we discussed why. So I felt respected as a partner, and we always were very efficient. Lastly, turnaround and response time was incredible. So if you want a reliable guide on this journey who will kindly give you honest, trustworthy feedback and help you get into your dream schools, follow the steps on the screen, which are the steps taken by all the clients that you've heard from in the last few minutes. This fellow and the other clients sought acceptance help, and they are now all pursuing their dreams. Follow his recommendation, and frequently their recommendation. Take the steps on the screen as he did, and pursue your dreams also.